then I started teaching at the 6th grade.
Yeah.
And I realized my parents were so right. Like, how do you live on $26,000 a year at the time, right?
Right.
I could not raise a family. So I worked at nights at a TV station, and they had this room where all these guys would go in and nobody would ever walk out. And I was like, what's in there? Like, that's the 3D department. I'm like, I want to go in the 3D department.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go in there. Well, just tell me I can't do it. And now I'm going to be obsessed about doing it.
Yeah.
And I moaned and griped and moaned and griped, and they finally said, Sunday afternoons you can go in there when nobody else is there. Mm-hmm. And I ran in and I grabbed the first book off the shelf, and it said, select the vertices and create a cluster. And I thought, what the hell are either of those, right? And in that moment, I realized if I can figure this out, I bet there's a huge market for other people who want to do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. But at the time, it was a very apprentice-driven. So you had to move to LA, get coffee for 6 months, empty the trash, and maybe they'll let you sit at a computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I poured myself into it.
Yeah.
Days and nights, weekends.
What radio station is this?
The TV station was at OSU.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you kind of marry your love of education and like newfound hobby of 3D and animation. That leads into the animation side of things. What is this? Early 90s, mid 90s? Kind of what time?
Mid to late 90s.
Okay, so internet's really kind of like, wow, this is the new frontier of the world.
Absolutely.
And you see that opportunity and think, wow, this is, now mom and dad are probably thinking, he's smart, he's putting his his education and his work ethic to use now. Yeah. Sadly, that he's not, sorry to the kids you were teaching, but no doubt you'd have been a fantastic 6th grade teacher. But,
I loved it. And I tracked these kids that I worked with, and they were just good kids, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the parents won't really let the teachers teach.
Yeah.
Right? So one day I did a unit on astronomy, and I always start with, hey, tell me what you know about it. Mm-hmm. And the little kid raised his hand. Yep. Oh, that's like Cancer and Libra and Gemini. And I go, oh, no. That's astrology. We're going to talk about astronomy, and I may have spent 30 seconds just clarifying this is not this, and this is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And the next day I got a letter that said, how dare you teach my child about the occult? And I came home and I told my wife, I was like, I literally want to go change the world.
Yeah.
But I can't.
I can't do it from a classroom.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
I quit that at the end of the summer. I quit and started teaching at the college level at Northern Oklahoma College. There, I built like a state-of-the-art, world-renowned animation facility that drew people from all over the world. And so this is a $3,000 degree, and you can walk right out and get a $60,000 a year job at the time.
Yeah.
And so, I've got kids all over the world. I call them kids. They're a little bit younger than me, so I call them kids. But I've got them all over the world working, making movies, making video games.
Where does that kind of, the thing, you just go back a little bit, you just said when you left the school you told your wife, I want to change the world.
Yep.
Why? Where does that come from? Because a lot of people would just be like, I want to buy a nice car, I want to get a job, I want to join a country club and live my happy life.
I want to go change the world. Yeah. I had some amazing teachers growing up, and I just felt I'm going to go give this back.
Yeah.
And so my students, unfortunately, it was a 2.5-year program, and you know how fast technology changes. So if you started today with whatever software you were using, imagine what that's going to be like in 2.5 years if you'd never changed the software.
Yeah.
Well, it's on here on 3rd version already, right? And so I went into the regents and I said, listen, folks, these kids are not ready for work. They can't find work because it's changing so fast. I think we need to teach all this in one semester. And they looked at me and they're like, how do you propose that? I said, I got a plan. I'm going to teach 42 credit hours in one semester. So the kids will come to school Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., a half-hour lunch, and no holidays. And they looked at me like, okay, we can't pay you for 42 credit hours. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what'd you pay me for? And they said, well, we pay you for 12. How about 18? And I was like, well, 18 is better than 12. I'll take it. Yeah. And now that program rocketed. I mean, we were producing amazing artists who were production ready. Mm-hmm. So they go to work and people are like, oh my gosh, these guys know how to work. Well, they've been in this program where they've worked a whole semester, 6 days a week.
Yeah. So then, going further down the timeline, then like you love education. You start teaching these kids to be production ready, going into Pixar or all of these big companies that are starting, either world renowned or starting up. So then you become the go-to place to teach kids.
Yep.
And that's how you take, like I said, you marry the education with the love of technology, and then you are effectively the Google of teaching kids animation and 3D.
Yeah, it was in person, so we were one of like 5 places in the world where you could come and actually have hands-on and learn.
Wow.
And everything was going great, and then my wife got pregnant. And I literally lived across the street from my lab. So the kids would come over at midnight, ring the doorbell. Hey, my computer's not working. All right, let me come help you out.
Yeah.
And while my wife was pregnant, she said, Piyush, these kids can't ring the doorbell.
It's got to change.
And so every night I'd lock myself in my little spare bedroom, and I would produce all of these videos for the students so they wouldn't have to come over.
Yeah.
On how to reboot their servers, how to get the software back up and running, how to save their files, all this stuff. And one day this kid said, you should put this on the internet. And I'm like, who the hell would want this stuff?
Yeah.
And so I took his advice. I said, okay, I'll put it out there. Built a little website. Halloween morning, I turned it on. No ads. This was way before Google or YouTube. And by 5 p.m., I had an email from a kid in Israel that said, hey, I'm a production artist. This is the most amazing content we've ever seen, but my internet's terrible. Can I send you $30 and burn it on a disk? And that's how the business started.
Light bulb moment right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you fast forward 14 years, I had 42 full-time artists hired here in Oklahoma, 500 around the world. We only turned over 12 people in 14 years. So a very sticky business where people loved coming to work. And I taught about 1.5 million students every year. So in my little world, I got to change my world.